Hello and welcome to Premier League Central. It's Christmas time. It really is Christmas, or nearly. That's why I've got the Christmas tree behind me. I'm not in Hounslow anymore. I'm back in Cambridge, which is a very different sort of dynamic to what we had in the house. Charlie, you're back up north as well in Kidderminster, aren't you? Away from the troubles. Tadhg and
I'm in the Midlands, Sam. I'm in the Midlands in Kidderminster.
The Midlands is north for me compared to here. You're you're more north than
Shocking
London.
claim.
Than London,
Yeah.
but Midlands is Sheffield's the start of the north. We'll go with that. So you're below Sheffield. You're in the middle of the country. Anyway, more importantly, a team who are north, Leeds United. Okay, a northern side. Started the season pretty well. And I don't think there's a massive crisis, but they did lose 6-2 to bitter rivals Manchester United on Sunday afternoon at Old Trafford. Is that a damaging defeat, Tadhg?
Well, obviously it is. Like you're losing to big rivals. I know they hadn't played them in quite a few years, but there's always going to be a rivalry between United and Leeds. Like obviously I was happy being a United supporter or whatever. But that's at the end of the day, that's what United are capable of on a certain day. But just the way Leeds set up, talk about playing into their hands, it was just shocking altogether. He whips off Calvin Phillips at half time. You can't blame Calvin Phillips for what happened yesterday. Calvin Phillips had no cover whatsoever, and the defence had no cover. And I was kind of looking through it, and I just wanted to go through their past few results. And I think everyone knows now, they have the worst defence in the league, 30 goals conceded. But there was one key player, I think. They lost 3-1 to Chelsea, and they lost a defender called Robin Koch, I think. Robin Koch, yeah. And he ever since he's got injured, they have been absolute. I think they've conceded 10 in their last 3 games. And Luke Ayling is coming in to play centre back. He's not a centre back. It's as simple as that. Stuart Tallis goes back to right back. They're playing players are just playing.
Jamie Shackleton played their second half, didn't he, at right back?
Yeah, and now Lee Cooper now is supposedly could be on the injured list, but they are saying they bought a fella from Real Sociedad in the summer called Diego Llorente, and they're hoping that he could be coming back because, by God, they need some centre half anyway.
For me, I don't know what about you, Charlie and Viraj. I agree with what you're saying there, Ty. But for me, it's not just a personnel thing. I know Liam Cooper might be out now. You've mentioned on others as well, but surely it's a system, isn't it? It's a system thing that Bielsa runs with, Charlie and Viraj. They play quite obviously a direct style, high press, and they leave themselves exploited. So is Bielsa naive to go into every game? Charlie, I'll start with you, and Viraj, you can come in as well. Is Bielsa naive, not changing it up, going for the same system every week?
It's been an intense topic of debate, this one, Sam, between me and a lot of people that I've been talking to about the game. I don't think you can call Bielsa naive because he's kind of a legend of the game as a manager. Maybe you can just say he's a bit too blinded by his own philosophy, because I just think it's a good thing as a manager to back your own philosophy. Fair enough. If he wanted to set up in that game and try and go toe-to-toe with United, fair play. But when you go 3-0 down in 20 minutes, it's quite evident you're going to get walloped. I think even before they went 3-0 down, after 5 or 6 minutes of the game, I think everyone watching could tell they were going to get walloped. So I think what Bielsa probably needs is a second trick up his sleeve, a little plan B or something like that.
They just don't have a plan B, do they?
No, I've got a lot of respect for Bielsa, huge respect, and I love their plan A, which is the attacking football. But why on earth would it not be a sensible thing to have a plan B when it goes tees up, as it did yesterday?
So it went, as you said there, it didn't go well. Viraj, what was the main why did it not go so well against Manchester United? Was it that midfield situation with Click and Phillips?
So I have 2 problems with Bielsa. Right, actually one problem, and I have a problem with one thing Charlie said, so I'll address that first. So Charlie said, at 3-0, you were going to get walloped, but they had their chances. I actually rate them for playing as they still do, because if you saw the 90th minute, 6-2 down, they were still pressing, they were still going, and you could see Bielsa at the touchline going mental. And Bielsa said it after the game as well. When he was asked, why were you still screaming at your players to press in the 90th minute? He was like, because we owe it to the fans. When you were a lead stop, you go at it for 90 minutes. And that's the way he plays. A couple of De Gea saves were brilliant in that first half. And they did score at 4-1 at halftime. I don't think I was sat with a couple of United fans and they weren't too sure how it would go, because you never know with Leeds and Bielsa. You just never know, because they did have a fair few chances. And if De Gea missed one of them, it would be 4-2 or 3-2 at that point when they were going for it. And that could have changed the game. You never know.
But they're still conceding so many goals.
Yeah, and that's the issue I'll address now. Is the problem is when they play a 4-1-4-1 with Calvin Phillips playing the lone defensive centre mid. And I feel like in that first half, he was getting isolated quite a bit, where he was trying to cover too much ground. So when it's fast-paced teams with quick passing between them and playing on the half turn, you leave a lot of players open, which is why Scott McTominay had found so much joy in that first 5 minutes when he scored 2, because he was being left open, because it's just literally...
A lot of the time, I thought, yeah, you're completely right. Matthias Klick, he was pressing high up the pitch, really high up the pitch. And with Klick pushing up so much from that central midfield, left Phillips isolated, didn't it? And United could just bombard their runs past and through the midfield, Tadhg. Klick and the Leeds midfield in general, Tadhg, have got a lot of quality going forward, but is it Premier League quality?
Well, like they Jesus Christ, you can't be as naive as what they were on Sunday. Like they're like we know the quality that United have going forward when they want to do it. Like, and like I'd say they were just licking their lips with the way Leeds set up in that game. Like, sure, you could see it. I saw the analysis on Match of the Day. Like, and you see like Calvin Phillips there on his own, about 5 United attacking midfielders coming towards him, and Klick, and I think it was Rafinha as the other centre midfielder as well. They were way up. That they were almost right next to Bamford on the other side of the field. Sure, mates, no, that's like playing FIFA. Like, it's just there's just totally unrealistic. And like, I know I mentioned Robin Koch, but there's also your man. There's also your man as well. I know he was superb for them last season, but they lost him to Brighton over the summer. Was Ben White, and they just haven't been as good defensively since. But like Charlie's right, like they need to come up with a plan B, because look, I think they will stay up. They score enough goals to stay up. Patrick Bamford is still scoring goals. I think he's 7 or 8 this season. A goal-scoring striker will keep you up. It's as simple as that. But they just need to sort the defence. Like I wouldn't call it a crisis, but it is a crisis defensively.
Yeah, where would you guys sit quickly? Because Riaz, I'll put you in a sec. But where would you guys sit? Because they won 5-2 against Newcastle during the week, and then they lose 6-2 on Sunday. How are we split here? Are we split in the sense that, are you guys concerned and you think he should have a plan B and change it round, or any of you guys thinking like me? I think I love it. Just go for every game, attack.
So,
what's the split here? But yeah, Charlie?
Well, here's what it is, Sam. Here's what it is, Sam. As neutrals, we're all going to say, yeah, we love it. I love it. I love watching Leeds. But come on. When push comes to shove at the end of the season, Leeds might need to grind out a few results. And at that point, if you're 3-0 down, you can't be saying, oh, makes a great story. Look how much I'm sticking to my philosophy. Because who cares? If you get relegated, then no one's going to remember that. The most important thing is staying in the league. And lately, Sam, and everyone else on the call, indeed, they're on a massive downwards curve at the moment. They've lost 5 of their last 8 games, and the aggregate score of those 5 losses is 19-6. So they're just leaking goals, absolutely leaking goals. And I get it; they're great to watch. It's a romantic story, but let's be a bit more pragmatic about it. And,
but Viraz,
do
I'm going to say to you, do you realistically think that Bielsa will change his pattern of play, though? I don't think he will.
He said it in his post-match press conference as well. This is what got us to the Premier League. This is what got us results early on in the season. It's just a bad phase. We're going to fight it, and I'm not going to change my philosophy. He said it in his post-match press conference yesterday. But my thing with Leeds is, your question was, will they stay up? I think yes, because the question I'm asking myself is, are there 3 teams that are worse off than Leeds?
Oh yeah.
That was, I would say, 100%. I
There's
think
four, five, yeah.
West Brom, Burnley, Sheffield United, and Fulham. They're all four of them. And
But
Arsenal.
is 17th
Arsenal.
place good enough for Leeds though? I don't think so.
Oh no, but I think I think the, I think the owners and the board, the target they would have given him was to stay in the league, because the first step is to stay in the league, right? When you come up, any new team that comes up doesn't target going into the top 10. That's a bonus. The first thing when a new team comes up is they want to stabilize themselves in the Premier League. I don't think any Leeds fans want to go back down, so they will be happy with the 17th position.
And also we're 9 days away from like the January transfer window, so like it's Bielsa needs to kind of look at that as well and see if he can bring in like a proper decent centre half, because like when you just don't have them and you have injuries, you need to replace them. It's just very simple mathematics. Like they've been playing with Luke Ayling as a centre back for the last few weeks. Like there's players playing out of position. That is never going to help any system whatsoever. Like,
but I don't think Ayling's done a bad job at centre back. He's played there a few times before. The problem lies in midfield and getting overrun in midfield. If you look at the Leeds,
but that's not a personnel thing, though, is it?
It's not a personnel thing. It's a system
it's
thing.
Not at all.
It's not. But that's where I feel a part of it is right for. I understand Charlie's point of view, where he says that why would you go out set up to lose games when you know you can lose games against the big teams, which will play faster form of football, and you will get outrun in midfield. And Calvin Phillips alone is not enough to be able to handle that danger. But then you look at the bottom half teams, which are slower, and I think that's where his formation comes to the fore. And to be fair, like in the first game of the season, 4-3 against Liverpool, I think that kind of gave confidence to Bielsa to think, you know what, I can just go to toe to toe with everyone this way. If we win, we win. It's like an all-out attack FIFA term, if I use that. If they're just going for it, and if they lose, they lose. They don't care, because they know that they'll get enough points to stay up anyway.
Would you say, Charlie, the quality they have in that side then overall is enough to be able to do that and pick up more positive results than negatives? You've got like people like Burnley, West Brom coming up. You think they beat those sides if they went gun-ho at them? Would you not?
Potentially, yeah, but they do struggle a bit more against teams that kind of sit off them and they're a bit more defensively, because Leeds and United don't play too dissimilarly, really. They both enjoy having a lot of space to operate in. But yeah, it just so happened in a bit of a slugfest yesterday that United won, and they could have had 10.
And Man United have got better players probably in the attacking period.
much better.
They have.
Surprise. So
they have. But you know, that style of play, I think it will be enough to see them over the line, and I think staying up whilst playing that kind of attacking football is a massive achievement compared to just sitting back. Playing defensively in games, so he would win a lot of respect for that. But I do think he's a bit blinded sometimes.
You know where I think Leeds are at is when Jurgen Klopp first signed for Liverpool. I know Jurgen Klopp had better players, but if you see 2015 when his entire strategy was outscore your opponents, and I think that's where Leeds are at right now. I think once he settles into the Premier League, and hopefully he will, slowly he'll start working on his defensive line and sign better players so he can shore up the defense. And then he might alter his formation or his style of play slightly to try and win games while playing well defensively rather than just trying to outscore his opponents.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. So there's another team that we're going to talk about tonight. So we talked about Leeds United. A team that came up with them last season was West Bromwich Albion from the Championship. West Brom played against Aston Villa last night, and they had an expected goals of 0.04.
Oh, Sam, that was my stat of the week, Sam. That was my stat of the week. Sam has just hijacked my stat of the week, but we're going to keep it in there. No, we're going to keep it in there. I just want to make it known. Carry on, Sam.
So, sorry about that, Charlie. It's because we're not in the same house. We'd have these discussions normally. We're not. That's Zoom. That's what's going on. But
don't worry about it.
Going back to it, so West Brom under Sam Allardyce, because he's come in since we last recorded. Slaven Bilic has been sacked. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, in a second. But 0.04 goals was the expected goals against Aston Villa. And this is quite a good barometer for where Leeds are. Leeds haven't been played off the park really this season, apart from yesterday for the first time. Whereas West Brom were against I know they had 10 men against a poor Villa side. So West Bromwich Albion, 19th in the table with 7 points, okay? I've got to start the first question for you, Viraj. Should they have sacked Slavan Bilic?
I was looking at the stats yesterday, and to be honest, yes, I think they should have. I was seeing some of the results, and there were some winnable games that they bottled. They have the second most goals conceded now in the Premier League with 29, only one off Leeds. The difference between Leeds and West Brom is that they don't score any goals. They're the 18th in goals scored. They've only scored 5 in their last 11, which is a big, big worry. When you're shipping in goals and you're not scoring any, you're going to go down. I know they got a 1-all draw against City, but I think the decision was already made before that game.
Fine. So you think that is the correct decision?
Yes, because
but Tadhg.
Only reason is because of who they got in.
So I guess you agree, Tadhg. Do you agree with Sam Allardyce coming in? Do you think that's a good appointment?
Yeah.
Look, I disagreed with the sacking, especially after a 1-all draw with City. I thought it was amazing in the way they treated it and the way they treated Bilic. It was like he knew he was going to be sacked. Even going into that game was absolutely dreadful. I'll be totally honest. I don't want to be too biased, but the way they treated it was shocking. But look, I'm just going to deal with the reality now. They appointed the man that we all know can keep teams up. What is it? Blackburn, Palace, Sunderland. He's been there before. He's done it. He's kept
West
teams
Ham
up.
as well, I think.
Yeah, West Ham as well. I think, but he has such a job in his hands this time. I was just looking at a stat before this with in the BBC, and they said no team with fewer than 8 points after 14 games has ever stayed up in the Premier League. That's the task ahead of him. They don't score goals, they concede goals. He's problems at either side of the pitch. I didn't see the game last night, but just to look at one thing, it was something like 19 shots on goal for Aston Villa and just 1 for West Brom. It is truly awful.
Which was from a free kick as well. So
yeah, and to be honest, their best player this season, from what I have seen, has been their goalkeeper, Sam Johnston. He has made some superb saves throughout the season. They could be even a hell of a lot worse without him being in goal. But they're still only 3 points off safety behind Fulham, so it definitely gives them a bit of hope. But with Allardyce, I think, especially Christmas period, very busy period, I don't think you'd see the impact of Allardyce in that team till maybe mid-January, February. I think it's going to take a bit of time, and to think that they have to play Liverpool next weekend as well. It's just shocking.
They would love that new manager bounce though, wouldn't they, Charlie? Sam Allardyce, 2015, 14, 16, 17, 12, 11, all these years where he saved up, kept teams in the Premier League. Is he a bit outdated though? Is a bit like how we discussed David Moyes maybe a year ago, and then obviously last week we were saying how wrong we were.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Look how David Moyes is doing. David Moyes is, he's showing that old school managers can still succeed. Allardyce is 66 years old now, so I imagine this is pretty much going to be his last hurrah. And like we've all said, it is a major challenge that Allardyce is facing. So I'm sure he's still got the motivation for it. I did watch the game last night, and just looking at him, he seemed right up for it. Everything was back into place. He had the earpiece in. He was chewing furiously on his extra spearmint. I love to see it really, and I'm a big fan of Big Sam. I think he's the king of just doing a job. I think people forget. He kept Palace in the league, led them to 14th, and then he came in when Everton were in absolute dire straits, led them to 8th place, and then got rewarded with the sack. So, look, Allardyce doesn't get the respect he deserves. I'm really glad to see him back. And it's harsh on Bilic because the team weren't underperforming because they're a poor team. But, the board felt they had to take a gamble, and I think Allardyce is the right guy to come in, yeah.
Right, Charlie, you said that, the team wasn't performing. I don't think Bilic should have been sacked because it was the team that is bad. But who is responsible for building that team? Isn't it Slaven Bilic?
Well, yeah, but here's the thing, though. Here is the thing. Slaven Bilic never got on with West Brom's owners, ever. That's why he was kind of hanging by a thread for a long time at West Brom, Bilic. And they only gave him, I think, 40 million to play within the summer, which sounds like a lot still because we're still accustomed to the old transfer market, but that's essentially nothing. They spent 20 million of that getting Grady Diangana in, who they had on loan last season anyway. But they had him last season anyway, so that's not even improving the squad. And then they spent the other 20 on Karlan Grant, who, you know, what's he got? 1 goal, 0 goals? I'm not even sure.
He started his last 2 though.
Yeah, look, he does build the team, but he's actually been constantly at odds with the owners, saying that they haven't backed him enough, and it's kind of true, really. Everyone expected West Brom to go down.
But do you not see? Okay, with the addition of VAR and Big Sam's, this is the first time Big Sam's manager when VAR has been introduced, and he already said in his press conference that he hopes that he doesn't have to talk about VAR as much, but like. A team that's supposed to be defensively solid will concede fouls. You saw yesterday the red card in the first half in 30 minutes or so, right? And the lack of discipline that West Brom team has. There should have been a second red because I think there was an ankle tap by Diangana, was it? I think, I'm not too sure. But do you think Big Sam can get that discipline into the squad? Because he was furious about the red card, wasn't he?
He came out and personally criticised like Jake Livermore
club
after,
captain.
And he said, and he said that look, if this continues, he won't be captain anymore. And that's the kind of that's the kind of thing that West Brom clearly needs.
But can Big Sam bring the discipline?
And I would imagine he can, like, because even I was watching it there this morning, Stephen Warnock was on there on Sky Sports, and obviously he played at right back, like, for Blackburn Rovers for a good few years under Warnock. And under Allardyce, and the one thing I always noticed about Allardyce and any of the players that played under him, I never really seen a lot of them come out and criticise him, really. They all seem to like playing under him. And even, I know he's been criticised for, as Mourinho would call, 19th century football and stuff back in the day, like, but the results usually spoke for themselves, like, and I just wanted to give a look back even at his time in Palace. He took over Alan Pardew being sacked in December 2016. In January that year, very similar note to this with West Brom, he signs Jeffrey Schlupp, Patrick Van Aanholt and Luka Milivojevic. And all 3 of those players, if you look at Palace now, they're all regular starters for Palace ever since. Like, and like that just tells me that he knows recruitment too. So I would imagine the January transfer, January is going to be crucial. Like,
do you guys
will he get backed? He has to get backed if they want to stay in the Premier League, and I'm sure he will, because a lot of West Brom fans are angry of the appointment because of Big Sam's reputation, I guess, as quite a negative football manager. They rather look. There's people saying I'd rather watch attacking football. You're not scoring anyway, so just get a grip. So with that in mind, obviously the owners have obviously appointed him because they need to stay in the Premier League and they're thinking financially driven. So it would make sense to give him a little bit of money. Yeah, otherwise, what's the point of getting him into the club? But that's my opinion anyway. Charlie, I don't know what you think. I'm sure he'll get back.
Yeah, no, they need to back him. Otherwise, they're not. I mean, look, by January, you've seen the first half of the season. That sometimes gives the owners a kick up the arse because they really know where they stand. And they might have thought they could just chance it before the start of the season, but I expect them to, well, I mean, we're nearly in January now and they're still well in the relegation zone. So I do expect him to be backed. I think he needs some creativity in central midfield because he's not got a lot. Conor Gallagher's a great player, but he's not creative enough. And they probably need some wing cover because Diangana and Pereira are both really talented, but they've not got much aside from those two. And then aside from that, you would expect Big Sam to tighten things up at the back, just through his experience.
And he'll tighten things up, I think, for sure, Viraj. But can they add that quality? Will they score enough goals to stay up?
To Charlie's point, I actually wanted to ask you guys another question. If you, all of you, right, if you're all Big Sam individually, Big Sam.
Big Sam. It's my name, isn't it?
Yeah, right. So, but then we'll start with you, Sam. If you're Big Sam right now, you've been given a transfer budget of 25 million. Oh no, forget a transfer budget. You've been told you can sign one player within reasonable amount, and he needs to be available or not playing at another club. Who's the player you'd go out and sign?
Maybe Todd Cantwell. Is that a bit
Good
negative?
shout.
Is he not like
Negative.
I think that's a good shout.
He's quite a good player, so maybe
I would have
sort of
gone
like him in
Timu.
a creative spot.
I was thinking in my head. I was thinking Timu Pukki because they've not been scoring goals, and I think Pukki
Maybe.
can
Well,
score.
No, I think they've already lumped too much money on their strikers. I think they've got enough. They should have enough strikers to keep them going. I think if it was me, I would probably go for someone like, and there's an asterisk next to this, so don't jump in. I'd probably go for someone like Jack Wilshere, assuming he was fit, because he's obviously available. And I think he's kind of the good middle ground of a player that's good at link-up play, classy, talented. But obviously he's got big questions over his fitness. But that kind of caliber of player would be
But
someone
I assume if he was around the squad as well, he'd be a big boost up as well. Because from what I've heard, he's a massive, big professional. Like he's proper professional. So having that kind of guy who's played at such a high level would probably help the team out a lot as well, wouldn't it, Tadhg?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, as long as he's not sitting out injured, yeah.
Yeah.
But Tadhg, who would you go for?
I never really thought of it in my mind. Suppose the best striker that I've seen in the Championship this season is playing with Brentford, and that's Ivan Toney. But I think if Brentford don't go up, he's going to just be signed by a Premier League club next season. That is a given. I would think, looking at my own club, honestly, I think there's a good few deadweight players there, the likes of Jesse Lingard and Phil Jones. They're not, honestly, they're not, someone like Phil Jones there would not be a bad player for them to sign on loan or something. He has played no football, I'd say, throughout this season. If I was looking at a centre-half, honestly, I would look at him for a loan for the rest of the season, genuinely, because I know maybe there's the wage thing or whatever, but honestly, he's the type of player, and I would agree with the Jack Wilshere thing as well. What do they have to lose? Honestly, I would try and give someone like that a chance again. And I'm sure he's eager to play football again as well. I don't know, whether he'd suit an Allardyce style, but you can be guaranteed of one thing anyway with Allardyce is clean sheets will be the main thing with him anyway, and they always
some
have
creativity, don't you?
Yeah.
You need to have some creative task, somebody in there who can. He drives with the ball really well, Wilshere, doesn't he? And he can play on the turn, so maybe. But if you're watching, maybe Jack Wilshere, maybe you end up there. Probably not, though.
No.
We don't seem to get much right on this show, do we? Viraj predicted Spurs to win the league or whatever, and they've just collapsed. So anyway, moving on.
Games to go.
Any final comments? Any final comments on West Brom before we tick on to
It's still going down.
F-
That's
the
all I
EFL?
want to say. Still going down.
Going down, Tadhg, Charlie? Going down or not?
I've changed my mind on this one. I think they're going to stay up if he's in charge. Yeah, I think he's going to sort things. And I think he might make one or two decent signings in January. But I also must say that...
Is the year 2020, Tadhg? Is the year 2020?
And I also
Everything
must
can
say...
happen.
And I also must say that the other team that are challenging them for relegation, Fulham, have improved a lot lately, and they've been
Exactly
very
why I
unlucky.
think West Brom are going down.
Yeah, and I think they've been very unlucky with a lot of decisions lately as well. So I think it could be very, very close between the likes of those two. But Brighton are shocking. I think Brighton are going down.
Right, stay on point,
useless.
Tadhg. Come on. This is about West Brom.
Charlie, do
Are
you
they
think they'll go
going?
down?
It'll be very close, but I'm rooting for Big Sam to keep him up.
What about you, Sam?
Okay, I think they will not go. I think they'll definitely go down. I think it'll be the first relegation for Big Sam,
Right,
especially
so
with Burnley at the
2v2.
time of recording. 48 minutes in, Burnley are 1-0 up against Wolves, which will be a big win for them. And they're just starting to get a little bit better, Burnley, as well. But that's all for the Premier League. In the EFL, Brentford, they won a really, 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 really important match again. They beat Reading, who were in the playoffs, by 3-1, Tadhg. 13 games unbeaten now. That's looking pretty good,
they're
isn't it?
I'm really impressed with them, Sam. And obviously, they're our local team over, and I've actually watched their last 4 games now. I just watched them last week against Watford. They drew 1-1. They should have won that game. I thought they were superb. Watched them again on Saturday. They were outstanding. And the biggest thing about them lately as well is they're not becoming as dependent on Ivan Toney, and Bumo scored 2 goals on Saturday, and Frank is a damn good manager, and I really think this could be I think this is their year. I really do. I just have a belief.
I was going to say, you were at Brentford manager Thomas Frank, his press conference a week ago now, last Monday. Does he seem quite calm, collected?
Yeah, very positive fella. He actually reminds me a bit of Jurgen Klopp. He's a bit of an eccentric kind of way about him as well. Yeah. But I really like him, and I just like the way that Brentford team is set up. I really do. They have a few little injuries at centre half at the moment, but I'd be very hopeful. They're unbeaten in 13 now, and that was a big win to bait Reading as well. Because and I actually think they could bait Newcastle tomorrow in the League Cup as well. I would not be one bit surprised. Yeah.
They could well do. They're going really well, as are Norwich City, who Tadhg Cantwell plays for, and Timu Pukki. They won against Cardiff City by 2-0. So they're top on 43 points. Bournemouth second on 38. They drew at Luton 0-0. So okay result for them. Watford have sacked their manager. They always sack their manager, don't they? Just
shocking.
Some merry-go-round, isn't it? After they lost to Huddersfield 2-0. In League One, Portsmouth beat Hull City by 2-0. It means Portsmouth goes to the top of the table, Hull drop to third, and Lincoln City, who won 4-0 away at Northampton, go into second place. So a good weekend for Lincoln, a great weekend for Portsmouth. Burton Albion, they're bottom of the table. They lost to Doncaster, so it's not a very happy Christmas at all if you are a Brewer. Not good at all. In League Two, Newport County in Wales, they lost 4-2 at home to Oldham. Just thinking about that. Living in Newport, Oldham at this time it would be pretty tricky, wouldn't it? Newport in Wales with all the COVID cases, and Oldham locked up in Manchester with Tier 3, all sorts going on. Anyway, Oldham went and won there. Forest Green, much nicer part of the country, over in sort of Gloucestershire area, who are in Tier 2, so they're all right. They've got fans in. They beat Carlisle United 1-0, so great win for them. They were literally third and fourth in the table, so big win for Forest Green. And Cheltenham, another nice area with racecourse galore, which Tadhg likes. They lost 3-0 at Barrow, who are sacked their manager about a week ago, and clearly it's paid off for them. And that's all in the EFL. Tadhg, have you got an Irish player of the week?
I think last week, with 2 rounds of games, I thought it was a week for the hard workers. Saw Bobby Firmino last week, and I just thought of it like that. Klopp kept faith in him 3 in his last 2 games, and obviously that links in with another player that works extremely hard, and he's kind of been rewarded in the last 2 games, is David McGoldrick with Sheffield, 2 goals and an assist. And I think Sheffield, they're getting closer to that victory. They were very, very unlucky not to beat Brighton on Sunday. They're getting closer, and they will get there eventually, but I don't think they're going to stay up.
No, I agree.
By the way, Sheffield United.
Oh yeah, Sheffield.
Tadhg say it properly, otherwise Sam will get really
Sheffield.
Sheffield United. Chris Wilder went nuts at a reporter about that last week, and that really made me feel like I was right. So thank you for watching, okay? And I hope you have a really good Christmas. Stay positive, because all lockdown stuff means it's not great. But if you can have a beer, have a glass of wine, have a gin and tonic, just loosen up a little bit and enjoy the festivities. We're going to enjoy it here. We'll be back next week, I think, with a podcast in between Christmas and New Year, because we're committed, and there's so much football going on Boxing Day and around then. Merry Christmas from us at Premier League Central, and take it easy and take care.
Merry Christmas, everyone.